Hi, I'm Mark McDowell, CEO and co-founder of Primal, a marketing agency with 150 plus employees. And last year we did $14 million in revenue. So today I'm going to cover how I look after a large group of employees in 3 steps. So by the end of this video, you should be able to walk away with something useful to help you manage large groups of people. So let's get into it. So the first part is basically setting your company values. So company values are really important because ultimately they're going to guide the behaviors of the team. It's going to cut across everything from hiring to firing to promoting. Basically, you want to create values that instill the things and behaviors that you want in your team, because that's also going to fuel the type of culture that you have. So the way I like to think about values is you want it to be extremely memorable. So you want to be able to remember it. So when you think of values, you want it to be simple, right? Because simple is much more memorable. You might create these values yourself, or you might do it with your team. Either way, I find 3 to 5 typically works pretty well, and less is more. So because it helps with the retention, and you want your values to basically reflect mostly what the culture of the company is, and then you might have some aspirational values. But ultimately, you want it to reflect the values that you have as a founder or a business owner, reflect the values of the team, and you want to encompass everything that you feel represents the company. So something I like to do as well is to ensure that, let's just say that you have 3 values, right? 1, 2, 3. One might be work hard, work smart, no drama. This is actually the values of Friends Company, but I love it because it's so simple and it just covers a lot of different things, right? The really important thing for me is to think about MECE. So MECE, what's this? It's mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So basically each of these values represents its own area, right? So each one. And they don't overlap, right? So, working hard is great. That represents like effort. Working smart means, they're producing outcomes. They're, doing things in a really intelligent way, doing things efficiently. And no drama is more on the people side. So they're basically, not causing drama and, really contributing to the culture as an example. So it's really important that these don't technically overlap with each other. Because, example like collaboration or teamwork, as 2 separate values, they overlap. So you don't want that to really happen, because you basically want to cover all of the areas. So you want to collectively exhaust all the areas that you feel are the right behaviors for your company that don't overlap, and just, try to have values that cover those for you, because it's going to play a really important part in terms of how you evaluate performance as well. The other third part about values is that you basically want to instill this everywhere, right? So you want to have it before you hire someone. They're aware of like the values that your company has. So what I do is I have it on the website. We have it as part of hiring tests. What value of this company, resonates the most with you and why. We have values in, how we evaluate people. Our values are also repeated every single month because we reward people based on adhering to those values. It's repeated often. It's everywhere. It's even on the walls of the office. So it's just really important for the company to live and breathe those values. And it really starts with leadership as well. Introducing it as early as possible to the person before they come in, and then repeating it as much as possible. So the second part of all of this is performance. So we can have the right behaviors, but if performance is low, especially if you're trying to build some kind of high-performing team or drive an excellence culture, performance is really important, right? You can't just have nice people and not perform. You kind of need both. So what we do is we assign 3 to 5 measurable KPIs or goals per person, right? So 3 to 5 goals / KPIs per person. So each person in this company has 5 things that they must achieve, and people get graded on these things. So if there's a performance review, if we need to look at promoting someone, these are the measurable things that we look at to see, okay, well, are you a proven performer? Do you produce results? And what that looks like is we'll create a scorecard, for these 5 goals. There's 3 here, but, let's just assume, 3 to 5. And then we'll say, okay, well, an example of one goal we can use is, let's just say it's a sales position. So you must achieve 100,000 per month, monthly recurring revenue as an example. And on a monthly basis, we'll review those goals and see, okay, well, is this person performing or not? And we might score them A, B, or C. A is, they're exceeding, B is on target, C is below. And every person in the company has something like this. So what we have here essentially is 2 ways to measure people, right? We have outcomes we want out of that person and the position, and that's related to performance. And then we have the values in the company that have been instilled in people even before they join the company in terms of the types of behaviors and the types of people that we want to operate here. So combining these 2 things into a matrix is where it gets really interesting. So we'll just go down here, number 3. So let's call this the performance values matrix. So there's lots of versions of this that you can find. So, but I'll try and share as much as basically you have a quadrant like this. And on this side, you have performance. And then you have at the bottom values. So on any given basis, if we want to take a look at someone or evaluate someone, we can say, okay, well, how well do they adhere to these values, i.e. behaviors that we love, and to what degree, right? So let's just say, someone can be scored 4 out of 5 for working hard, 3 out of 5 for working smart, and you'll just take an average of that. And basically, we can also score people based on performance, right? So how well are they doing against their KPIs and goals? And you'll end up with 4 areas, right? So you'll have people who basically have low performance, low adherence to values. You'll have people who have very strong values, very strong behaviors in the company, but they're not performing so well. And then you'll have people who perform really well, but maybe they're not that nice of a person, bit of an asshole maybe. And then you'll have high performers who live and breathe the values of the company, right? This is the most ideal state for every employee, although it's not possible at scale to do that, but you'll have varying levels of this. So the context here is that you're going to have people, you basically want to get people who have high values, because high values are great, right? They're just great people, but they may not be performing, right? So this is where we would try to coach, mentor, train this person to try to bring their performance up. And then we might have people who have, let's just say, very high performance, but they're not strong in terms of, maybe they're just, they create a lot of drama, right? And we want to try to get these people across to this position of high performance, high values. So this is where we might have a chat to the person and we might say, okay, we're noticing so-and-so behaviors. It's impacting the team in this way. We kind of need you to stop that. That's a very simplified version of a conversation that would happen, but conversations would be had about behaviors, right? So, and anyone here, well, if they can't really ascend, to be honest, I just don't see why anyone would be in this quadrant to begin with, because you should have a hiring process that filters out this type of person, right? So in my opinion, if there's anyone in your company like this, they should just be exited because they don't adhere to values, they're low performing, and it's probably too much work to deal with that. You want to be focusing on these people to ascend them into high performers and people who adhere to values, okay? So what do you do from here, right? So you might have some people up here, some people here, some people here. If you cannot, 1, train or instill behavior change people who don't adhere to values, you would put them onto some kind of values improvement plan where you say, okay, over the next 2 to 3 months, as an example, we want to see these behaviors change and these adherence to these values get better. We will check in with you. We will have conversations with you. We will mentor you. We will support you in any way we can to ensure that you can move across. And if they don't, well, then they should leave, right? Because they're going to erode culture. They're going to erode all the people who uphold these values, and it's just not great. Even though they're a high performer, it's not worth keeping in your business because, you're going to have a high performing asshole, and you don't want assholes in the business, no matter if they bring results or not, right? Because you will make room for these types of people, and that's what you want. Now, if people are down here, strong values, well, if through training, mentoring, coaching, supporting them does not improve their performance, well, they need to enter a performance improvement plan over 2 to 3 months, whatever time frame makes sense to improve within that period. And if they don't improve, well, then they should also exit the business, right? Because you need performing people. That's what drives an excellence culture. That's what drives results for the business. And you want people who instill the values because that's going to help with culture. So hopefully this has simplified a few things. This is how I think about, really, really great people. They typically fulfill these two things. We created a system where we can measure both. And, we do that across the company when we hire, fire, and promote people. So I hope that helps you. Thank you.